This is the start of the history books of the Old Testament. There's going to be 12 of them. And in Joshua, what's going to happen is we pick up the story. Israel were rescued from slavery in Egypt. They traveled for 40 years in the wilderness, and now they've arrived on the edge of the promised land. And in this book, they're going to conquer the promised land, and they're going to get settled there. And at the end of it, Joshua's going to divide the land between them, and then he's going to die. And right now, at the start of that, Joshua's taken over, and he's taken over from Moses. That is not an easy ask. That is basically the Jewish equivalent of taking over from Alex Ferguson. You know, Moses, the great leader, the one who's been around forever, who's dominated everything, through whom the law came, and now it's over to you, my friend, little Joshua. What have you got in the tank? And not only is it over to Joshua with that sort of weight and pressure on him, but it's over to Joshua at a time where they have to fight a huge battle. It's not going to get easier now that they're about to enter the promised land, so it's wartime. How does Joshua cope, and how does he manage to succeed as he leads Israel? Because he does manage to succeed. I think just we get a couple of ingredients in the first chapter to this. So one is, God says in verse 5, "As I was with Moses, so I will be with you." And right off the bat, that tells us the reason they succeeded is not because Joshua's awesome. It's because God is, and God's with them. And the reason Moses was so successful, yes, Moses did things well, but the reason he was successful was because God was with him. And I know that sounds simplistic, but we have to apply that principle today. The reason I will be successful, or you will be successful in the things God is calling us to, is because the same God that was with Moses when he rescued Israel from Egypt, the same God that was with Joshua, as we're about to see in this book, when he conquers the land, is the God who is with us today. He's the very same God. And the next line says, "I will never leave you or forsake you." If we took that seriously, what comfort we would have as we follow this God. And then there's this next bit, "Be strong and very courageous." And that keeps being repeated in this book. Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. And where does that courage come from? I think there's a hint of it in verse 9 where it says, "Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous." I'm telling you to do this stuff, Joshua, so you can have courage. What I find is when I'm stepping out and taking a risk for God, if I know that he's told me to do it, I can have courage. Because I know that if he's told me to do it, he's going to back up his act, because that's just how he is. He's going to help me out here. If he hasn't told me to do it, if I'm not totally sure that this is what God's will is, then, I'd be probably to be a bit nervous and to be anxious and to be afraid. But if we're living in a way that God has told us to live, we can have strength and we can have courage and we can draw comfort from that. And the final thing, I love it, he says, keep the law on your lips, meditate on it day and night. Keep this book close and meditate on it and chew on it, because as you do that, you'll come to understand that I'm the same God, that I never leave you nor forsake you, and you'll know what I am commanding you to do so that you can take courage.